Welcome to this final part of the Tubulestart competition. I'm going to get straight into it. Last week we did a brief overview of pillars. Now these 5 P's we're talking about, the growth, are almost truncated versions of something called a quest mode that operates with Dynamo. So the pillars, we went over them very briefly. It's a whole massive topic, but I hope it gave you enough of a grounding to go with. Any questions, please get in touch. Today we want to finish the other 4 P's, and then from there you will have the PowerPoint presentation. You just got to fill it in and submit it as part of your competition entry. And we will go from there. Just as a recap, we talked about the 6 pillars: your protected time, your identity elements, your identity related outcome system, identity related action system, identity related ecosystem, and the next small step. I want to go a bit more into IROS and the small step, which is where the pathway will begin. You see, your identity related outcome system is the big goal, the big thing you want to achieve. But to achieve your big goal, well, you're not going to do it in day one. You go your next move and your next move. Now, here's the thing: with the identity related outcome system, it's who you want to become when you achieve that big goal. And why do you want to become that person? That's what you're talking about there. It's like, I want to become a great restorative dentist because I want to look after patients with restorative care. I want to become a great leader because I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want to become an amazing dentist so I can become famous. Whatever it is, this is what comes with your identity related outcome system. Now, it's very abstract, it's very non-specific, it's related to identity, and it thinks more long-term about who you want to become and ties you to what your underlying cause is. Thing is, because it's so abstract and so non-specific, you don't have a target in mind, you don't have anything specific in mind. And if you remember, in the quest move, you make a small move and you see where you go. Make a small move. This is part of that big quest. I want a quest to become this person, but actually your small move is going to be slightly different. And although this is abstract, non-specific, their examples of this can be things like, I want to become a leader, I want to become a restorative dentist, I want to become a business owner. Whatever it is, it's who you want to become in the process of achieving that big goal. But what happens is, you've got to think of what's your next move. And that happens through a series of what questions. If you remember, I actually wrote this in the second video. So you ask yourself, I want to become a restorative dentist. We're going to use this as an example. A great restorative dentist in private practice, something like that. I want to become someone who looks after patients. I want to do full mouth rehab cases. That's what you think, for example. You look at what courses, what you ask the what question. You'll say, what do I need to do to achieve that? Well, I need to do courses. What else do I need to do? Of course, I'll need to find the right patients. I'll need the right practice where I can do this. What else do I need to do? You ask the question and you make your first layer of list. However, when you then look at courses, well, you have to think, okay, courses, what do I need to do go and what are the right courses? Well, I need to go on an FMR course. I need to do on courses on occlusion. Oh, in terms of practice, what do I need to do if I need the right practice? Well, I need to find out where the private practices are. Oh, I may need a mentor in practice, so and so forth. You get a bigger list. That's your move. But if I was to do an FMR course, well, what's the things I need to do? I need to do preps. I need to do impressions. Oh, in preps, I need to do posterior preps. Oh, I need to do anterior preps. Oh, I need to do, if I was going to do posterior preps, what do I need to do? Well, I need to have a budget in place. Oh, I need to find a course. I need time management. I need to know which part of the posterior preps I really need to improve on. You see, you want to do full mouth cases and become a restorative dentist. That's your big goal. But your next move boils down to that small thing you do first. Every small thing, evaluate, see where you are, because you might do a few small things and think, I'm not sure I want to be this restorative dentist. And now you've not committed to a long pathway in that chaos changing world I spoke about. When you look at all of this, then you think, it's my next move. Which one will it be? Or you go to the other side, you look at, private practice, I'll have to apply for jobs. I'll have to ask my friends for advice, my colleagues, mentors. Where do I go? Oh, I'm going to have to build a portfolio for jobs. What do I need to do to apply for jobs? Portfolio. Oh, I need to do a CV. For portfolio, I'm going to need photographs. You see, the list can go down to the smallest thing you do first. That's how you make massive improvements. Every small step. You do a small step a week, small step a week. And before you know it, you're flying because you've done lots of small steps. But actually, which small step do you focus on? That's what the pathway is about. Because every small step you do is identifying your block at their smallest level. These are all blocks. These are the things that are stopping you from getting to where you need to. So just picking one of those. So you first do is list all those moves, right? Your posterior preps course, which part of posterior preps, your budget, your anterior preps, your portfolio, CV, whatever those moves are at the bottom of this triangle here. And then how do you pick which block you want to deal with first? Now remember something, the 80-20 rule, right? You just find the one thing that's going to solve 80% of those, all those blocks. That's the thing, the big move. You pick something small, but when you deal with it, it almost helps you sort out a lot of the blocks. That's what you want to go with. So here's a system I devised to help with that. You see, there are 4 things you have to look at in any of those. You'd love to do things you enjoy because you just feel that connects. That's your identity related action system, IRAS. It's something you truly enjoy. There is also that thing that you have to do because it's critical. It's important. I have to do this because it needs to pay the bills or whatever the sense of importance is. You might do it because you're good at it. It doesn't mean you always enjoy it, but you're naturally good at it because it appeals to your natural capacities. You remember in the identity elements, it appeals to your natural capacities. It may not appeal to your rules, that's why you don't enjoy it, but it appeals to your natural capacities. And many people end up doing things like that, and then they wonder why they're doing it, they're good at it, but they don't enjoy it. And the other bit is the crucial bit. The critical bit is important. The crucial bit is it's urgent. It needs to be done. And when you actually do this, I've kind of built this diagram. And here you can see in the middle is the 4 things coming together. The blue area is where all 4 come together. If you find there's some things you're not good at, but you really enjoy, and they're crucial and they're critical, then end up in that middle triangle there. Similarly, there might be things you enjoy, they're crucial, and you're good at. They end up in this middle triangle. The things that are crucial and critical, they need to be done. You're good at it, but you don't enjoy it. And many dentists are in this state sometimes. It ends up here. And the things that you're really good at, you enjoy, they're not crucial, but they're critical. They're important. They end up there. Now, there might be 2 things. You enjoy things and they're crucial, or you enjoy things and they're critical. They end up there. Critical and good at, crucial, good at, and something you enjoy. And obviously, if it's just one of these things, you end up there. But this helps you define those blocks, you see, because it helps you work out, oh, I need to find a course. It's really crucial. It's time important. But actually, I don't enjoy doing that. I hate the process of looking for courses. I'm not really good at it. And I sometimes think it's not important, but I just need to get it done to improve my skills. It's time important. It's urgent. I need to get that done to get my goal. So you end up putting it in a crucial category. For example, this is just an example. You might say the other block was budget. Oh, I hate budgeting. I'm just not great at finance, but it needs to be done because my finances are tight. So you put it in the crucial aspect. Similarly, it might be something like a portfolio. I really enjoy it. It's crucial and critical, but I'm not good at building portfolios. This tells you I may need to find a system which makes it easier for me. Time management is so important, but I'm not enjoy it. I don't find it urgent. It's not good at. I try and just work it out. So you put in critical. These are just examples. But using this system, you can put all the blocks in different place. Which part of posterior preps that I'm not good at, and a specific part I'm not good at, that I enjoy. I mean, I'm not good at it, but I can become good at it. Critical, crucial, it goes in between. I really pick up skills very fast is what you're good at. So you put it in between there. And now you think, this is what I need to do, which part of posterior preps. But actually, if you think the other bits are more important, maybe time management is your first thing. But when you do this, it helps you identify which blocks go where and which one you can address. There is also another factor I've got, which is a scoring system for these blocks. I haven't put them here simply because that's a bit more detailed. But this helps you identify the blocks and which one block you will pick. So, having done your IROS and all of these questions, you go, what's my next move? It'll be, you decide, you know what, I'm going to go with the crucial aspect, finding a course. Because if I find it that meets all the other things, the budget and everything else will fall in place. And that is your pathway. But actually, the pathway doesn't stop there. You see so many people go, okay, I've got to find a course. Now I'm going to go on Facebook and look at people's recommendations, and the same names pop up. And not everybody benefits from that course. They just don't say it publicly. In fact, they don't tell anyone because they put all that money. A lot of people think, oh, my ego's been a little bit affected. So they're a bit uncertain. So realistically, everyone has different needs. So you've got to now develop the skills to find that course. But before you do, it's about just making it into something that's more concrete. You see, your IROS, or the big goal we saw, was abstract, non-specific. But for your next move, the one thing, it's got to be very concrete. When I say concrete, it's definable, it's specific. It's still identity related now because it's in your IROS triangle, but it's something that you can do in the short term and plan for it. You can plan for that much. You can't plan for big, long career pathways because of the changing world, but you can plan for your next course and make it more concrete, more specific, and that's slightly bit difficult to approach, right? That's your next move. Now, because it's all these aspects, you can really now make your next move so powerful. That's the plan. And what you do or how you make it into this is by evaluating it and making it into a question. Why? Because the power of your question is the power of your focus. It helps you build focus in the right direction. It helps you identify the exact nature of that block, and then with that question, you can then go and find the exact right information. You're no longer looking for recommendations. Recommendations now are looking for you. You are in control now of the courses to select. So many people always ask, oh, there's so many courses out there, I don't know which one to do. This is the process. You've identified the block in your IROS triangle. You've now moved on to find your next move. Now this is what you do, is make it into a question. And what type of question? Now there are three types, right? Open, closed, and semi-open questions. Closed questions are yes or no answers. Is this a good webinar? Yes or no. Is this a good competition? Yes or no. Is a closed question. It's too closed, doesn't give you enough information. A very open question is literally me going, tell me about this webinar. What do you think? And you go, oh, and it just gives you all the information, right? It's huge. A semi-open question is open, but in a specific direction. And it uses the 6 honest serving men of Kipling. What does 6 honest serving men of Kipling? MEN, actually, that should be men of Kipling. And this is Rudyard Kipling's poem. Google it if you need to. But it says, I have 6 honest serving men. They're called what, how, who, where, when, and why. So when you make a question, you start with this specific. What do I do to find a course? How do I find a course? These things now actually make it specific for you, because each question start has a specific aim. You see, if you're thinking strategy, it's what. If you're thinking I need to know the method, it's how. If you think about who should I go for it, the person, it's who. If the place, it's where, time, when, reason, why. You see, for example, I tell you what do you call it, an example from outside dentistry. Andy Grove, you know these computers you're watching this on. He had a little chip maker, right? Intel, and he was the CEO of Intel. And Clayton Christensen is a well-known management professor. And there were these Intel produced absolutely high quality chips around the country and all of that. But there were other companies coming up now producing lower quality but cheaper chips. And they were obviously eating into Intel's market share. Now, Andy Grove was thinking, I really need to know how to break that pattern. And Christian Kleischerson, the management professor, started saying, what you need to do is produce a cheaper processor, introduce them out into the market. Andy Grove said, my friend, I know what to do, I don't know how to do it. You see, that's what the differentiation is. I don't know actually what strategy, what plan to use for this. If you don't know how to select a course, that's the method. But first, you need to know what's my strategy. So your question determines your focus. So for a course, which is the example we've used here, what course do I need to find for posterior preps is different to how do I find the right course, because the method is different from the strategy. What course do I find? The strategy, it might be about looking at websites, doing that, but how you find a course is the exact small steps. Let's look at clinical procedure, crown lengthening. That might be one. We're talking preps here. Okay, what do I do for a posterior prep? The plan would be, occlusal reduction, interproximal reduction, buccal and lingual reduction. That's a strategy. How do I do a posterior prep? You select the spur, you put it there. That shows you the exact method. Well, this is just the steps. The what is the steps you follow. The method is what you do in each of those steps. So you can now understand, once you've identified your block, why creating a pathway with the right question is so important. Because with the right question, you start developing or looking at the right answers. Who is the best person to teach me about posterior preps? That's such an important question because it helps you evaluate your educator. You might know what to do, you might know how to do it, but you want the right educator. And here's a piece of advice. Right educators are not the ones who shout the loudest on social media. There are lots of them because the people who shout the loudest are actually showing you or telling you what they do. But the people who shout the least are the ones who are answering your questions. They give you solutions. So when you go on social medias, don't look at people posting cases. Look at people who are genuinely sharing stuff in that. Place might be, where do I look for the right course? This may tie in with your how. Time will be, when should I do this course? It might be a timing thing in that block. Why should I do this course? Well, it's true, because sometimes you go, I'm doing posterior prep. You put this question, you start answering, you think, actually, this is not my block. So your questions become so important. So the manner of your gap determines your question. Is it a strategy? Is it a method, person, place, time, reason? There is also something more important. It depends on your experience level and difficulty level. See, if you're a beginner, most times you'll be thinking in terms of what or how. But as an advanced person, you'll think more in terms of why. Why am I doing this course? Why do I need to do posterior preps? Well, this is from the research many years ago, late 70s, early 80s. They were showing or giving these people extremely large coffee mugs to drink from. And there was another group who were given normal sized coffee mugs. And they were asked to explain what or explain the action they're undertaking. Now, those people who had extremely large coffee mugs, if you think they've never been used to it, so it's the difficulty level is high. It's something new they're doing. So they were describing things in what terms? I'm holding a cup. I'm putting the cup in a balance to my lips. Those given normal sized coffee cups, they've obviously done it before. They had experience level is advanced. So when they were asked to describe their action, they didn't say things like I'm holding a cup. They actually described it in why terms. I'm drinking coffee to quench my thirst. I'm doing this to relax. They're talking about the why language. Those people talk about the what language. So in your experience level, suppose you've never done any posterior preps, then it's advisable to put a what question there. Or if you've never done a course, what course do I find? That sort of thing. The who, where, and when is not as relevant in the experience level, but you can add that on because you may want to based on the knowledge you have, the background you have, the people you know. Make sense? So your block becomes your question. And once you have a clear question, it's so much easier to go out looking for information, because immediately you ask the question when you see a course turn up. You ask a question when something turns up, and if it doesn't match your question, it's out. It's out the way. It's filtered. With so much noise, the problem is no longer a lack of information. The problem is how you curate that information. This is your curation game that I'm sharing here. Now, what you also need to know is, yes, you've built your question to help you find the course, but what you need to do as well is know that when I am going in there, my saboteurs, the things that are going to tempt me, the things that are going to distract me, you need to make a good list of those. For example, if I'm going to do an online course, it's a very good chance that I might be distracted by my phone or other internet things. You need to have a plan for these distractions. You need to know what resources you have. You know, we already talked about protecting your resources in the pillars area, but you need to know what are the resources available to help you find this course better. And final statement is knowing that specific outcome. Because I said to you, this is the next move is specific. It needs a defined outcome endpoint. And that is where you go. My question will be answered when, and then you say, when this target is met, when I've done it by this time. You define that really well. So as a result, you have a clear a block you've identified, a clear question, you've put the strategies of temptations, resources there, and your defined outcome. That is your pathway. So the second part of your competition PowerPoint will have this, your pathway. My question is, my saboteurs or my temptations or distractions, my resources, my question will be answered when, should be answered. And finally, who's your identity related ecosystem partner? Do you remember in P1, we talked about the different people? Who are the people who are going to help you here in defining your pathway, or also when going through your pathway, keep you accountable? That's important. Having done that, now you've identified your pillars, what connects you, and you've identified your main problem or the block or the thing you need to master with a specific question. The small thing, remember. Now you need to build the capability, the skills to be able to achieve that. And your skills are built in two things. One is your education, the knowledge and the skills you get in the lab. But actually, a lot of your skill is also gained from experience, because learning about something is one thing, doing it and getting the feedback from it is another. And actually, education and experience compounded together over years is what makes you really good and a master at something. So, what you also have to remember about this now is courses. The courses you book and the educators, what is their education and what is their experience? There's lots of young educators, 3-4 years out there. You've got to know their course will have things which are good, but they haven't had that full plethora of experience. Dentistry is long term. A lot of dentistry fails 7-8 years down the line. So those educators who've been teaching after 12 years of experience will probably have seen more failures and can give you that experience side a lot more. This is just something to think about. But you've got to build that capability now. And when you build that capability, obviously your experience level will determine how you see that capability. If you're a beginner, you'll be looking again at the what side, building that skill. Remember I said that? If you're more advanced, you'll say, look, I know the skill, I'm improving my nuances, the small bits. And you also realize at that stage that what you're doing, your skill, your product, whatever, is just a vehicle to achieve a bigger aim, a bigger purpose. Not just becoming a restorative dentist, but about becoming a person bigger than that. Why are you becoming a restorative dentist? Because I want to contribute to long-term patient care. I want to make a difference in people's health. The vision takes over. And actually, this is very important, because in leaders in dentistry, we need visionary leaders, people who know that why really clearly. But many times we're being influenced by people who haven't reached that visionary stage yet. And that's what social media does. Anyway, that's something for me to just put on a side. But this is important, your education, your experience. The third P, education, is the power of learning. And the fourth P, experience, is your place. Now, the power of learning, if you remember in the first talk, I talked about the huge architectural change that has happened. When I talked about architecture change, so many courses have now come up because literally it's not just the entities, the entire groundwork has changed. Anybody can build a platform to share their slight experience or their lots of experience. So you have a greater choice. And in your learning strategy to improve your skills, this is my bit. When you choose something to go and learn from, there are 8 things to look out for, 8 characteristics. Number one, that characteristic has to connect with your P2 pathway question. And if it recommends the relevant learning from that, even better. Remember in your question, you said, this is my question. I will know, my question will be answered when, and you actually wrote down a clear description of that. Any learning architecture should be able to answer that for you. P2 question. You go, actually, this lecture is answering these questions, I can do it. Or this course is answering it. It needs to cater to your learning style. Now, I said this in one of the earlier lectures. My learning style is very much short focus, short bursts of focus. I can't sit in an in-person course for a whole day because I listen for a while and my attention disappears. I go into reflective mode very quickly. Some of you might not be able to. So I do a lot of learning online. My learning style is online, so I can play and pause and watch and make notes and make connections and go back, and I need that. I can't sit in a lecture where I watch someone and go, I heard him for an hour, but I don't know what he said after 15 minutes because I lost connection there. Now, some of you may have a different learning style, kinesthetic. I just need to keep doing things. Fine. Also, experience-based educators. I just spoke about that a while ago. Certain educators have experience and can share more, and a learning architecture should have that. It should have active learning in place. It should have a broad range of topics. It enables you to develop your concept, reflective practice, and optimally priced. I know this is not the greatest of PowerPoint because I'm reading what's on screen, but it's giving you the outcome. It does need to connect you to your learning representation and your development need level. Remember the what, how, and why. It has to fit your learning style, no doubt about that. Then it has to have active learning. Now, active learning is 2 things. One, it helps you actively schedule things. You can actually schedule learning. You know, when you book a course, you're sub and automatically scheduling it in your diary because that's the date you're going to go. But when you do online learning, and especially the ones that are on demand rather than the live webinars, you have to have the facility to schedule it as well. That's important. Now, this is based on the scientific principle of implementation intentions. Many, many years ago, they did this experiment where the students were going or rushing in for an exam prior to Christmas holidays. As they rushed in, somebody was just sat outside the exam hall and said, we just want to speak to you quickly. Will you be able to tell us what you did in the Christmas holidays and send us an email? And the people would say yes and then rush in the exam. But actually, those people, students coming in and asked the question, were divided into 2 groups. One group was actually just, said, will you send us an email? They said yes. The second group was told to write on a piece of paper, can you tell us when and where you will do this and send the email to us? And so they wrote it on a piece of paper, gave it back to the interviewer who crumpled and chucked it away and rushed into the exam. What you have to remember is this. Those who wrote and scheduled it on a piece of paper didn't think much about it. They just wrote it and quickly rushed in the exam. Actually, 72% of them submitted what they did over Christmas within 3 days after the Christmas date. While those who said, yes, I'll submit it and kind of didn't do any more, they only about 36%, half submitted it. It's something called implementation intention. When you schedule something and you say, I'm going to do this, people, actually what you find is it's shown in psychological principles that scheduling increases your chances of doing something. So active learning is not just the learning aspect and making it interactive and fun, it's also the planning aspect. So any education bit you choose must have some active learning. And active learning means you don't just sit and watch, you're asked questions, you're interacting every now and then. Maybe they've got workbooks, maybe they're filling that in, maybe it's like a movie, they're entertaining you. All of these things play a role. Now, I told you that it needs a wide range of educators. Not only is a single educator's experience important, but every educator provides their own interpretation of a concept. It's based on their experiences, based on how they give it meaning, how they interpret it. And everyone has a slightly different way of doing things. So when you are learning, you can't just do one course. You pick a specific block. How do I find a course is our block, and go and look at 2 or 3 different ways in which people find courses, or do 2 and 3 courses on how to find a course, or do 3 courses on posterior preps, because those different concepts will help you join the dots. Now, there's something else to this, and that is the fact that any learning provider needs a broad spectrum of learning. What do I mean by this? I've already told you you need more than one course on your chosen pathway. Also, try and do smaller courses because they give you smaller pieces of the jigsaw to connect together. And I said this earlier, I think in the first lecture or the second one, where I said if you just do 6 courses a year, it's only 10% of your time. You need to be up at 25-30%, and smaller courses are easier to do. But also, you need to do some courses related subjects. So you should be able to map out some related subjects. If you're doing posterior preps, you might want to do a related subject on peri-pros connections. If you're doing a course on how do I find a course, you need to do related subject learning of how is tech changing the world, how a new course is coming up, because all those things on the side happening around may have a huge impact on the main thing you're learning, because we're in that fast-paced moving world, right? So the learning resource used must have a broad spectrum of learning. It must have the ability, or should have the ability, for you to build your own concepts, whether it's by learning or by notes or mind maps, whatever it is. Now, I say, do not ever make your learning absolute. What do I mean by that? Remember the linear mode. You were given the absolute plan and you were told this is exactly the steps you follow. Don't do that. Learn from different people and ask the question why, so you realize or understand the basic underlying principles of that subject. You cannot just learn how to cook the recipe in one way, because when you go out to implement it, your kitchen might be different, your ingredients might be variable. If you know the underlying concepts, the basis, the chances are you'll be able to modify your technique to fit the situation. So this is called sense making. It makes sense, we always say. That is because you're trying to understand the reasoning behind what's going on. This is especially important if you're in early stages of your career, because when you're in early stages, you'll still be trying to get the what should I do? And when you do the what, you don't ask the why question often enough, and you need to make sure that you do that. Don't just watch one person go, oh, you're a composite bonding, learned it, I'm going to do it. The biggest mistake you will make is do this and face the consequences 5, 6, 7 years down the line. Learn the basics. There are lots of cases posted out there which actually, in my opinion, shouldn't be posted, but that's the basis of it. Another thing about the learning strategy or the learning architecture you use is it should have the ability to build reflective aspects of both learning and implementation. You should be able to record or upload a portfolio of your clinical work. And finally, of course, price. It should be optimally priced. I don't say reasonably priced, because there are cheap providers out there who actually cannot provide that quality of education. And this has all come from experience, and that experience, I have implemented it on dentinal tubules, and the ones highlighted in green, tubules covers. It covers 6.5 of those 8 specific any learning architecture's requirements. I say 6.5 because to fit your learning style, it's almost there. Now with a learning goal, when it connects you to a pathway question, you can choose both online learning and hands-on courses. We're developing that area, hence I say it's halfway. It connects you to your P2 question because you enter your pathway question in your goals in the PDP and automatically gives you recommended learning. A wide range of educators. We have over 450 educators at Tubules. It allows active learning by helping you schedule things. You will see schedule on top of each video. That's why I put it. It's based on scientific principles. It allows active learning. If you notice, our videos are becoming more and more interactive. We have presenters, we have workbooks, things like that. I mean, like a broad spectrum of learning. Tubules has something like 1,600 videos and more courses coming on. We haven't built the sense-making mind map yet. It's work in progress. It allows you to reflect both the courses we have to for the GDC CPD purposes, but it also allows you to do reflections of your portfolio. And in my view, it's reasonably priced because it's £250 a year, which is less than £1 a day. For what you get, it's huge value. Watch one course, it'll change your dentistry to a level where that investment will translate into thousands. That's what we want. But that's a different story. Altogether, you have to make sure that these bits are ticked across. So as part of your competition, once you've done your P2 pathway, your next slide will be, how did you find the learning to solve your question? You will tell us how you found the learning architecture, how you found the topics, how it connected you to your P2 pathway, and why did you choose that learning? It'll then say, how did you undertake active learning? We want to know how you got involved into it and what's your learning style, what courses you undertook, and what concept did you build? Not what procedure you learned, what are the underlying principles of that procedure that you took on board. Once you've done the power of learning, we will move to P4. Now, P4 is situational implementation. What do I mean by situational implementation? When you learn something, you learned the concept. I said you put it in a situation. You see, I do crown lengthening. But actually, when I go in there, I know the basic principles of crown lengthening. I know the procedure and why I'm doing this procedure. Therefore, I know how to modify my flaps based on the site, based on which tooth, based on how much crown lengthening is needed. I also know how to modify my techniques based on my environment. You know, which practice am I in? Who's my team working with me? What's the patient situation there? Some of these things don't come straight away. Experience plays a role, which is why P4 is experience. The more experience you get in something, the more you're able to evolve, the more mistakes you learn from, all of that. So we actually want to know how you implemented the learning you got. Now, if your question is, how do I find a course? Then your situational implementation becomes, I found a course like this. And that's fine. If your question was, how do I do anterior composites, and then you went to learn about it, the underlying concepts of anterior composites may be morphology, may be what do you learn about layering composites. I want to know how you implemented that in your case. So you could do a case record. It could be anything. Your question may be, how do I enable better communication with my dental nurse? Then you go and learn about communication and you talk about how you implemented and what went well, what did not go well. And what was your support network in your environment? What were your resources like? What was everything working like? And what ecosystem you had? That's what you'll put as P4 place. And finally, P4, the pause, is all about reflecting and telling us how that has changed your first 4 Ps and how it leads you to the next move in your quest. That's it. That's all we're going to go with, really. Now, Tubules is all about learning. It's all about education. It's all about helping you grow to your extreme best. That is why we built the 5 Ps of growth. This competition was built to make you think about that, to maybe able to help you start thinking in a different way. There is something called Dynamo, which is what actually this whole thing has been built on. Dynamo's a bigger process. It's a massive 1-year course. on the 5 P's of growth that I run for certain individuals and businesses. If you want to be part of it, let me know. But this was a truncated version of their quest mode learning. And I really hope that that gives you some thought and something you have gained that you can take back every day to your practice, to your working life, to every aspect of your life. The reason we do this, the reason we have always done this for you is because we just want you to grow. We genuinely care for your growth. If you speak to anyone on the Tubules team, they will tell you this is all about the fact that we want you to be the best versions of you because we care.
Do you find working within dentistry can be overwhelming, challenging, and often draining? Do you feel lost and unsure where to go? Yet, you want to achieve your best and do your best. What would finding your world of dentistry make you feel? What would feeling fulfilled and inspired every day give you? What would the experience being rewarded and appreciated for what you do make you feel? What would working with a team that is inspired, together, and consistent give you? What would that step-by-step growth to limitless brilliance, day by day, in every way, no matter who you are or what you do, make you achieve? Because that is what we want, to help you find your growth. Because your brilliance is limitless. We want to do this because we care. We want to connect you to the right people who share the same hunger, the same pillars, and the same willingness to support you in your journey and celebrate your success. We want to help you define a pathway for your next stage of limitless brilliance. We want to give you the capability and skill through the power of learning, through both our huge online library of resources and the hands-on courses. We want to give you the ability to find the right place to truly unleash your potential and express your excellence. We want you to pause, reflect, and transform because we care. We want your business and team to grow. We want you to retain your teams for the long term. We want every member of your team to achieve their limitless brilliance. We want your team to contribute to the success of your practice and business because we care. We want to do this for dentistry every day, day after day, making sacrifices for the growth of the profession because we care. We want to provide support to the Tubules Foundation to build schools worldwide for the greater good of humanity because we care. Whatever we do, your growth, your team's growth, the well-being of the profession and the greater good is at the heart of what we do. It's not about us. It's about your path to limitless brilliance, day after day, because we care. And with that, we warmly welcome you.